So I'm back. Thought I would take a minute and deal with some of the details of the tools that I use, how I use them, putting them into practice. Some people might be saying, "Why are you being so crazy using a toothbrush? Seems like such a harsh thing to use." So what I decided, I was just going to go ahead and show you a few of the tools and the situations in which I use them. Hopefully this can be done fairly quickly. I want to keep these videos under 10 minutes. And I hope you guys are actually finding them at least useful, educational, if not entertaining, something to do while you're bored. Anyway, what we got here is I've got the NECA Evil Ash Head Knocker. Now, I pulled this guy out because specifically he's made out of a harder material. He's made out of a resin. And that being the case, it's not going to get damaged easily by a brush that's going to scratch the surface. And this thing sitting on my shelf where it is, it can get pretty dusty. So you can see it's got all these little cracks and crevices and stuff, and it's got little folds where dust can hide. And I really want to make sure these things are clean and in really good shape. So after I use this initially and just kind of give it a swipe to get the loose dust off, it might be that I've let this sit so long that there's some harder material on there. So what I would do in that case is to get into the smaller cracks, because of the smaller brush, then say something like this. This can get in there, but after a while the metal part and the wood, they might get in the way, and it's got delicate pieces to it, so I don't want to like break those and accidentally mess up my stuff. So what I do is just take the brush and gently just kind of flip it through. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while, so now I'm at the point where I just kind of like gently do that. But you're barely making contact, and you're just kind of like trying to push the dust off in one direction. So again, you don't want to scrub with any of the brushes. That's how you end up with a lot of scratches and stuff like that, and you can easily lose control and like snap something off or hit something and, you know, cause whatever problems. Shoes are pretty much the only real thing that's kind of like an exception to that, because the way that they do with the laces and everything, the tiny crevices in there is so small that you kind of have to sometimes really get in there and, you know, scrape on one side. The thing you want to be careful with is you don't want something like that to mess with the paint on it. So that's why I'm saying you do these things, do them gently and do it in one direction. Using a smaller brush, you'll get detail. You can also use these, but I'm not sure that these will actually get in there as finely as you need. These are really kind of weak bristles. They are a little bit more harsh than a makeup brush, but they're probably better than a toothbrush. It's just that the toothbrush actually will get into all the tiny little spaces because of the curvature and stuff of the brush. So anyway, that's what you use the toothbrush for, some kind of hard surface. And again, you can use this for that as well. Makeup brush, I started using that because of these pieces. This guy has a ton of chains and little tiny parts and pieces that hang off of him, and I really want to make sure that I'm not going to like snap something off when I'm brushing. So if I can go and like gently just brush ever so slightly on these things, I'm not going to like rip anything off. I'm not going to break any of the chains. I'm not going to, you know, if it had ropes on it or something, I wouldn't be breaking any of the strings off or anything like that, because it's such a delicate brush. You know, also if you have certain figures that are holding things that maybe you don't want to knock them out of their hand because it took a while to get them in their hand, or maybe the little props that they're holding, the little accessories, maybe they're really delicate or something, they could easily snap off. There's a lot of figures out there that are like that, especially the older ones. This kind of brush, it's super cheap, and you just, you know, brush a little bit like that. You don't even have to touch anything. You don't have to take anything out of his hand. Just do a little bit of brush. If it comes loose one way, you brush the other direction. Okay, so that's where I started with this, because I really was like, if I'm going to just go swipe with this big brush, I'm going to end up like wrecking something on the guy. So to try and keep my figures pristine, that's part of the process. Now, something I would use a paintbrush on is when you have like a really big surface to work with. So something like this. This NECA, this old school Sebastian Half figure has like a really nice base to it. And it's got a lot of detail in there, little tiny details. So I don't really want to take them off the base, but you can. But when I was cleaning this guy, this is exactly what I used. Again, you're not trying to like pull the paint off of there, you're just trying to get dust out. So one direction there, and then, you know, if you want to change directions you can, but you don't go scrub. You just gently, you know, brush out like that. When you have a ton of figures, yes, this is going to take you some time. So that's one of those suggestions where I highly suggest people do this more often than just letting their stuff sit on the shelf collect dust. You really don't want to do that. Again, he has like this little pouch that's on a tiny little piece of thread, just barely thicker than like an actual thread that you sew your clothes with or whatever, but it's still something that can pull off, something that can get snagged. So again, this is where you go in with the makeup brush and try and, you know, dust it off a little bit like that. This walker is really fragile, and I'm gonna be completely honest, I've broken this at least twice, luckily in the same spot. This little nodule right here keeps popping off, and I was able to like put it back together so it doesn't really look like it's been fixed unless you give it a really close look. But again, that's what this would be for, is this dusting of little pieces that are fragile and easily broken. I wouldn't want to dust this with that. That'd be a big no-no. Anyway, those are 3 of the tools that I use, and that's exactly the situations that I would use them in. I'll be back with another lesson another time.